block, spilling all the tea while it's still too hot. Lakeysha Keysha, queen of the plot. Hit that bell, cause the tea don't stop. She don't miss nothing, got the scoop on lock, spilling all the tea while it's still too hot. Lakeysha Keysha, queen of the plot. Hit that bell, cause the tea don't stop.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Come on in here, let's get this party started. Now, if you guys are new to my channel, make sure you guys are following, make sure you are liking the video. And also, if you guys are on Twitch, even if you're not on Twitch, download the Twitch app, follow me at Lakeysha Keysha on Twitch. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs over there. Come on, y'all. Go ahead, follow me. And thank you to all of the ones who have already did. Now that's actually I got a little bit more than 19 followers, but go on over there. And also make sure you guys are following me on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Now listen, y'all, we got to get into this, honey, because it looks like Simon is already fighting back, honey. I have the court order, which has been prepared and produced, but it looks like Simon is throwing in his little verbiage because, as he stated, he is going to fight this thing tooth and nail. And I was just saying, is Simon gonna pay the mortgage? And went and did research only to find that Simon is saying and doing exactly what he said he was going to do. Now, if you guys recall, Simon did an interview with Page Six. In that interview with Page Six, he was very upfront and felt like he had been winking bamboozled. Now let's kind of get into it, because in this interview, he went on to say that he was going to fight tooth and nail, and he was going to fight to the bitter end, which is the exact opposite of what I thought. I kind of thought that Simon was going to just be like, hey, I'm done with this, it's over, I'm going to move on. But now, after looking up some information, I realized that that is in fact what he is doing. And Porsha, you in trouble, girl.
Do you regret marrying her?
Absolutely. I said to her in one of my text messages to her, because she didn't respond, because I kept asking her, why did you file for divorce? And she wouldn't say anything. I tried to reach her mom. Her mom would not respond either. I later figured out this felt like a coup. When you...
He said it felt like a coup. Now, this is courtesy of Page Six. So Simon basically said that, from what I'm gathering, is that he felt like he was used for money and resources. And, I don't know if he was or was not, but the fact of the matter is they did get married. He did sign a prenup. But let's kind of get into that prenup, because the information that I have here, if I can find it, honey, this thing on computer be doing its own thing. Maybe it's on my other screen, but the information from the final order, actually, give me a minute, y'all. Let me bring it up. My computer just be doing all kinds of stuff. So here it is. The information from the final order, basically what Simon, okay, here I got it. Let me share my screen. It's gonna be quick, y'all. I'm not gonna read all 9 pages, but we're gonna get into it, because Simon is throwing out some verbiage in there, and I am assuming the reason that he's doing that is simple. Is because of what he said. He's going to fight this and wants to file for an appeal. Okay, so here is the document here, as you guys can see it on my screen. Now, this is the final order, the final judgment. Now, what you guys notice in here is that Porsha's attorney makes some very interesting statements. And basically what Porsha's attorney is pretty much saying is, here Simon goes again with this BS. Porsha's attorney is simply saying that Simon is attempting again to stop this from moving forward. And let's kind of get into the verbiage. So this is, let's start at the top. This is, let's just read it. It says, wife's response in opposition to husband's objection to wife's proposed final judgment. Y'all reading this? Husband's objection. So he's objecting to this. He's saying, hey, nope. So it says husband objection to wife's proposed final judgment and decree of divorce and order a motion to enforce prenuptial agreement and brief in support thereof. Now, I don't know the legal terminology behind why would you pretty much reject and object and to the final order. What exactly does that mean? As we watch Simon, and interestingly, on this particular, interview that he did with Page Six, what he said is he's going to continue to fight this thing, right? He's going to continue to fight this thing. And the first thing I thought, I said, well, maybe he's doing this objection because he wants to reserve his right to appeal. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, but that was the first thing that came to my mind, because if you think about it, if he accepts the final order, I mean, what does he say in the appeal? Oh, I accepted it, but I don't agree with it. So he seems like he's reserving his right to actually be able to appeal this thing. But if you guys recall in this interview, Simon really made it seem like Porsha really kidnapped him. Well, we know she didn't kidnap him, but he was like saying like, let's get into it.
When I don't know if you're familiar with, I'm from, I say it because I'm from Nigeria, and we were ruled at one point by the military. And so every so often when you want to change leadership, the president, you stage a coup.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I was totally blindsided. I was no member of her family, whether on the mother's side, on the father's side, reached out to me.
So basically, nobody reached out to him. He felt as if this was a setup, is what I got. So he did not feel like anything that happened with regards to this was genuine at all. So maybe, that is his reason. If you listen to this interview between Simon and the lady on Page 6, it just makes it seem like something was really off in the marriage. So let's get back into the final order. As I had stated to you all, he objected it. And I was like, what the hell do that mean? How do you object the order? The order is the order. So let's get into some verbiage. So it says introduction. The issues raised in the respondent. Keep in mind, the respondent is always Simon. The respondent is the person who did not file, right? The petitioner would be Porsha. The issues raised in the respondents, Simon, I don't know how to say this man's middle name, but Guobadia, aka Guobadia. Okay. So it says his objection to wife's proposed final judgment and degree of divorce. Order on motion to enforce prenuptial agreement. Husband's objection are not grounds in any legitimate legal basis, but rather constitute yet another effort to delay proceedings and evade accountability for his continued pattern of bad faith litigation. The parties appeared before this court on June 11th, 2025. Okay. For a hearing on wife's emergency motion to enforce the prenuptial agreement, followed by a final hearing for divorce. Remember, it was all about Porsha's motion. She want her money. She want to stay in the house. But afterwards, guys, remember, they did the final divorce. So this is what this document says, okay? Now, it says to enforce the prenuptial agreement, followed by a final hearing for divorce. The court correctly granted both the emergency motion and the divorce, issuing oral findings, rulings, and directives accordingly in compliance with the court's ruling. Wife submitted the proposed final judgment and degree of divorce and order on motion to enforce the prenuptial agreement to husband. Now, keep in mind, this took place on what? June 11th. Get this. On June 19th, 2025, and to the court on June 20th, 2025. Okay. The proposed order faithfully tracks the court's oral pronouncements and reflects its factual and legal determination based on the evidence presented at trial. And if you guys want to watch those, I have all of those on my YouTube page. Okay. Husband now seeks to obstruct, deny, no. This is saying that the husband now seeks to obstruct the finalization of this matter by filing meritless objections that mischaracterize the record and attempt to relitigate issues the court has already resolved. Notably, more than 5 days after receiving the proposed order. So after Simon received the proposed order, they said husband failed to submit a single substantive, revision or red line. Again, this is crazy. Demonstrating his refusal to participate in this process in good faith. His generalized objection obstruct any meaningful engagement, serves only to delay entry of the final judgment and impose further burden on the court, the wife, and the judicial economy. Did y'all hear that? This is what Porsha's attorney is saying. Now, I'm not going to read this all today, but y'all get it. Maybe we can go over this another day. But what it is simply saying is that Simon is holding up the process because he is attempting to not do it. I mean, he don't want to do this. This is what they're saying. So let's kind of get into what Simon said. Because if y'all remember in this interview, Simon said, listen, I'm going to use the legal system to my advantage.
And the only person I actually reached out to was her mom, and she didn't respond. And so I essentially sent her a text message. I said this was a $5 million rehab project that I took on.
A $5 million rehab project that he took on. I know y'all can read through the lines, right? He calling Porsha a rehab project that he took on. Did y'all hear that? He said she is a rehab project that he took on. Hello? Did y'all hear that? Okay, let's finish.
She never shared her concerns or issues with me before filing for divorce. If you're married, I've been married quite a bit. I think I understand a little bit about the dynamics of, I should understand a little bit about the dynamics of a relationship. You discuss issues and say, hey.
Simon said Porsha never discussed any issues with regards to the divorce, which is, I mean, pretty simple. If you're going through issues in your marriage, I mean, you can even be in a relationship. If you decide to divorce your husband, you divorce your wife, or you're leaving your man, or you're the man leaving the woman, you're like, listen here, if you don't get it together, I'm gone. Okay, that's generally how it goes. So what he's saying is, damn, I've been married a few times. Okay, I know how this goes. There were no issues that we were discussing, which would have meant that if I didn't get my shit together, she was out of there. So he's like, no. It didn't happen like that.
Hey, if this does not change or something does not happen, this is what might come of it. Mm-hmm. We never had those discussions, and I'm happy to share with you text messages.
He said they never had those discussions, which left him feeling kind of like, hey, did this even love me? I mean, was this all a $5 million rehab project?
Is where I was essentially blindsided.
Taken advantage of. Well, at least this is how he feels.
By the divorce fight.
I was actually going to ask you if this was something that you saw coming, if conversations had been had prior. What do you?
No conversations had been had. I mean, I don't know. How does that work? How does that even work? You file for divorce, there was no conversation had, and then you don't want to talk to me. But then at some point, I'm sorry, she did try to talk to him, but I think at that point, he was done with the marriage. So Simon has essentially said, this was not supposed to go down that way. And in return, he ain't trying to pay a damn thing.
So what do you think or what do you think Portia's reason was to file for divorce?
I think I was targeted.
Targeted. I think I was targeted. Do y'all think this is the reason why he is not willing to pay any of this money? Because y'all got to I mean, let's think about it. He did sign the prenup, but what happened, to the point where he like, I ain't paying shit.
In what way?
I was targeted from day one for financial reasons. When I filed for divorce from my previous, ex-wife.
And y'all pretty much heard the story. So essentially, Simon said he was targeted. He feels like he was targeted. And maybe that is the reason why he just ain't with none of this. Based on this court order, he is, objecting to everything. He is essentially going to file more motions. And Portia's attorney is saying that Simon is holding up this entire process and utilizing the court to do so. So y'all can kind of read through the lines. When I say denied, rejected, it's real simple. He is not paying a damn thing because, I mean, if he was going to pay it, then he would just pay it and go on by his business. So essentially what has happened in this case, Simon is raising more motions. He's objecting, which is not allowing the process to move forward. Now, one might think, well, why is he going to do that? Like, why won't he just file for an appeal? I'm not saying that he hasn't filed for an appeal, but what I'm saying is if you search the case, this is what the final order is saying. So it looks like Simon is he ain't for the bush. I mean, that's just that he ain't paying. He don't want to pay. And as he stated in this interview, which I hope they get to the point that I'm trying to make. I mean, damn. Okay, let's jump back into it. But in this interview with Page 6, the man said that he was going to fight to the bitter end. And it looks like that's exactly what he's doing.
She was in my DM praying for me. And I think I was in a vulnerable position at that time. And I entertained it. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. Getting engaged in 30 days, I mean, who does that?
Yeah, who the hell does that? I know he feel real crazy right about now because you were married to a whole nother woman and there was another one in your DM that knew you was married to the other woman. Yeah, that wasn't about shit, Simon. I could have told you that.
I was out of my goddamn mind.
It was the booty. It's okay. It's the booty. Most men fall crazy and they'll lose it all for the booty. It's just like that. I don't know why y'all like that.
To have done that. And of course, I'm paying dearly for it.
Wow. That brings me to my next topic. There was some reports stating that the judge overseeing your divorce case has upheld.
The judge upheld the prenup. Simon, what are you going to do?
The prenup that you guys signed before entering marriage. Are you able to share a little bit about what those terms are or look like?
That you receive $40,000 a month in alimony for the length of the marriage, which was 14 months. Okay. She gets to stay in the house, all expenses paid, including the mortgage, through for 36 months, up to 36 months. And if she chooses to own the home, she would have to refinance the property in her name.
And that's part of the problem. I mean, we already talked about that. You just can't get a mortgage of that magnitude without having some solid credit. I'm not saying good credit. I'm saying solid. See, it's a difference in good credit and solid credit, okay credit. Yeah, you can't have okay credit. You can't have good credit. You got to have the top of the top, because think about it, y'all. People with, that's buying those type of homes, they either got one of the two or all. They either got a whole bunch of money, because here's the deal, y'all should understand this. If you got a whole bunch of money, you actually can have messed up credit, because you just put more money down. But you cannot have messed up credit and no money. Okay. You will come out better just having more money and maybe messed up credit, but you're not going to be able to have messed up credit and little money, or okay credit and no money, or okay credit and a little money. It don't work like that.
And take a 50% equity. She would have to give me 50% equity in the home.
Wow. What is your reaction to that ruling and that decision?
It's basically what I've held from day one about this case. When I realized that I was targeted, I've had prenups in previous relationship, and I've honored those prenups without reservation.
Now, isn't that crazy that he said that? Because he said, listen, I've had prenups previously and I've honored those prenups. And this is what I was trying to get y'all to understand. This is not a situation where he didn't sign it. He sat down, he signed it. The attorneys looked at it. It's not like it's a surprise. He agreed to pay her this. What he's saying is, listen, I've had prenups before and I followed them. He don't want to follow this one. So what essentially he's saying is he feel like he was targeted. He feel like basically that he was targeted for financial gain. And I'm guessing that's why he don't want to pay shit.
This time around, I chosen to challenge in court all the way to the Supreme Court if I have to.
There you go. That's the part I was trying to get to. Y'all heard it. He said, I choose to challenge this in court all the way to the Supreme Court if I have to. So that's the answer. This is why he is challenging the judge's final order, because his objection is, I'm not paying nothing to this chick. She basically sought me out for monetary reasons, and because of it, I ain't paying shit. And I got enough money that I can run this up in the court all day until I'm tired and I don't want to do it anymore, which I don't think Porsha is in the same situation. So I just don't understand why people just won't move on. There would be no way that I would have my child in a house of a man that ain't even her father and crossing my T's hoping that everything work out. I'm just gonna move out. I'm sorry. I'm just not living in that kind of stress. I don't understand what these women be on. Y'all gotta stop selling y'all cats. I'm telling you, just get a job, work for yourself. If somebody want to give you something, accept it. But I'm not fighting for somebody else shit. Y'all gotta let me know what y'all think.
Too hot. Lakeysha Keysha, queen of the plot. Hit that bell, cause the tea don't